So I'm going to invite Lana Donnelly-Quinn back to the stage, but this time in a new artistic collaboration with Louise Pollard.
Hello everybody, welcome. This is a program of prayers to music, which Lana has set, and I will be telling a story. And Lana's theme is search in her prayers, which in the prayers of Baha'i, which she has put to music. And I'm going to be talking about a different kind of search, and that is the search of a young man to find the promised one. But more about him later. And the way it's going to work is, Lana is going to play. I'm going to tell the first part of the story, then Lana will play. I will tell the second part of the story, and then Lana will play. And really this is to feature her music, which, as you heard before, is ethereal. It's beautiful. It transforms the spirit. So I'm going to just tell you a little about Lana Donnelly-Quinn. She was born in Charlottetown. She played the piano when she was young. Then she played guitar, ukulele, and later on the harp. As a young woman, she spent many years in Saskatchewan. She raised a family, but she was always writing music and putting prayers to music. And so I'm going to leave you with one quote from Lana's mother, Shirley, who's sitting right there, who said, when Lana was young, if you sing a prayer, it's like singing it twice.
In the sea of thy mercy.
So, the year was 1844, and the world was hushed, expecting, waiting. They were waiting for something, they weren't sure what. And all over the world, different pockets of people felt there was something in the air. James Russell Lowell wrote a poem called Once to Every Man and Nation. Marconi invented the wireless, and as probably many of you know, the message he chose to send was, "What hath God wrought?" It was clear that something was about to happen. In New York State, there was a group of people called the Millerites, and the Millerites were absolutely sure God was going to return on May 23rd, 1844. Not only were they sure of it, they planned their lives around it. They sold their homes. They got ready for what they were sure was the return of Christ. Now, the calculations they had used were from the Bible. The Bible had a method for calculating when Christ would return, and they followed it. On the 25th of May, many of them were very, very disappointed. Some of them were angry, some were just sad, some were just in a state of paralysis, waiting for something. But here's what they didn't know. Their calculations were absolutely spot on. In fact, their calculations were correct because God had returned, but just in a place they had never really heard of or thought about, in a way they couldn't have imagined.
Suffer me, O my God, to draw nigh unto thee. Glorified be thy name, O King of all kings. Cause me to rest under the shadow of the wings of thy grace. O thou who art the King of all kings. For my soul burneth with thirst in its ceaseless search. The tears I shed attest my love for thee. No God is there beside thee, the mighty, O thou who art the King of all kings. Draw me nearer to the river that is life indeed. Glorified be thy name, O King of all kings. Help us to quaff the living waters of thy loving kindness, O thou who art the King of all kings. For my soul burneth with thirst in its ceaseless search. The tears I shed attest my love for thee. No God is there beside thee, the mighty, O thou who art the
The name of the young man who was on this quest was Mullah Hussein. And Mullah Hussein was absolutely sure the promised one was coming. And he was part of a group of young scholars. And their teacher was a man named Syed Kazim. And Syed Kazim had talked to them a lot about the coming of the Qayyim, or the promised one. The promised one who would return, God in human form. Christ, Muhammad, all of the major prophets of history. And when Syed Kazim died, he sent his students out on a quest to find the promised one, to fan out all over Persia and wherever else they felt drawn to look. Now, Mullah Hussein felt impelled to go to Shiraz, and he did. And as he came into the city gate, there was a young man standing there, a young man in a green turban who was very friendly and welcomed him lovingly. And he thought at first he knew him, but then he realized he didn't. And this young man invited him to come to his place for tea. So Mullah Hussein did. And they arrived at a small house in a rather obscure corner of Shiraz, and they went in for tea. And Mullah Hussein had a checklist. He wasn't just going to figure that the first kind, inspirational person was the promised one. He had a list of things. And here's his list. The person should be older than 20, but not as old as, not past 30. They should be a non-smoker. They should be perfect in physical form. They should be a descendant of Muhammad. And he had a couple of other little things that he was going to check them on. One was he should be able to expand on sacred topics, even though, and without an education, without a formal education in that area. And the second thing was the Surah of Joseph. The Surah of Joseph is, from the Quran, is the study of Joseph in the Bible. Everybody that's read the Bible knows that story. And there were some things that needed explaining. And so if this person was truly the promised one, they would be able to do that. So he went through his checklist as they drank tea. And the Bab, the gate, the one whose Bicentenary we were celebrating, said, well, all of those things are true of me. Well, then Mullah Hussein pulled out the book that he wanted interpreted, and the Bab, without any hesitation, began to reveal a commentary on it. And Mullah Hussein thought, well, this might be it. And then, without even mentioning anything, the Bab said, I am going to talk about the Surah of Joseph, which Mullah Hussein had not mentioned. This was his kind of ace in the hole sort of thing. And here the Bab had mentioned it without any prompting. So the commentary was literally out of this world. Mullah Hussein felt spellbound by this youth's presence, his flow of information, the way he wrote, everything. And it just flowed effortlessly from his pen. So, we're used to big changes taking a long time, often more than a human lifetime. The 30 Years' War, the 100 Years' War, come to think of it, the Pleistocene Age, we're used to major change taking place over a long period. Except that it doesn't always work that way. In the Bible, in 1 Corinthians 15:50, it says, behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And that's how it happened this time. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the Bab said to Mullah Hussein, I am that promised one. And Mullah Hussein was the first to hear the news. And he, the young man who entered into that house, was not the same man who left it.